This is like really TMI, but whatever. I felt everything. She was ready to come out. My body, on the other hand, was not. Ciao Monini! Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sofie. I currently live in Florence, Italy, and I gave birth 2 months ago now in an Italian hospital here in Florence. I've kind of been just trying to enjoy and savor the newborn bubble. And now that we are technically officially out of the newborn stage, flies by, I've kind of gathered my thoughts and energy and been getting the itch to update you all. I know some of you have been asking, are you okay? I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you know everything's good. Most of my updates have been there because it's just easier and faster, but I do miss my family here on YouTube, especially for those who don't have Instagram. And it feels good to be in the room and to kind of just fill you in. It's been almost 8 weeks since our baby girl was born. Wow. She's currently napping in the other room with Amelia right now. So if she wakes up by the end of this video, I will bring her here and introduce you all to her. She's the light of our world. And I mean, when they say your life changes, I always heard that, but I never fully realized until it happened to me the amount of infinite love you have for this creature. You hear it and it's cliche, but it's so true. She's been literally our pride and joy and priority for the last 2 months. But the point of this particular video, I wanted to do story time on my birth and how that went, especially giving birth here in Italy and in an Italian hospital. We went the public route. So there, all healthcare here is public, but if you want to pay for what's called intramenia, or like to give birth privately, you can, but it's insanely expensive, at least in Tuscany. And for what you get publicly versus what you get privately, there really isn't a huge difference. So we ended up deciding to go the public route. Had an amazing experience. I'll go through that. I have a whole note section on my phone where I was like live updating, like writing notes down in live time as everything was happening. And then you can tell, like, once my contractions got super excruciating, the update stopped. I will try to remember as much as possible. She was due on March 2nd. When she didn't come on her due date, they had scheduled for my induction to be the 8th, I believe, of March. So right when I would have hit 41 weeks. So I was scheduled to go and be induced. But on Monday night, Monday, March 4th, my mom came into town a week before her due date because we thought she was going to come early. So, we're doing the things. My mom's here, waiting for her to be born. I was starting to get contractions, but they were Braxton Hicks. But they were starting to come, more frequently. And that day, I remember Monday, they were kind of like a lulling, achy period cramp the whole day, kind of like pulsating cramps. But I was kind of getting that also like the weeks leading up to this. So for me, I was like, oh, whatever. I'm being induced Friday. It is what it is. But that Monday night, as soon as I went to bed, like the second I pretty much fell into a deep sleep at 11:25 p.m., my water broke. And the way I knew it was my water breaking, I felt her kicking, like a one big kick, and then all of a sudden, like, just liquid gushing out. Now, it's not in the movies where, like, you're like, oh my gosh, but it's a lot. Like, especially I was laying down. The second it happened, I knew it was my water that broke. I just knew it. I stood up, ran to go to the bathroom, and it was just kind of like, not gushing out, but like heavily leaking. And it was, and this might be TMI for you all. If you don't like these details, this video will be TMI. If you get triggered or you don't like to hear details about birth or that kind of stuff, then maybe not. Maybe don't watch this video. Ran to the bathroom, it kept on leaking quite heavily. And I started kind of shaking from the adrenaline because I knew, I was like, this is it. This is it. Started shaking from the adrenaline, like kind of almost shivering, like body just kind of went into like fight or flight mode. Amelia was passed out, but he heard me go to the bathroom, turn the light on. He goes, are you having contractions? I was like, no, my water broke. He was like, what? I was like, yeah. And because I tested positive for streptococco, it's like this vaginal test that they do right before your due date to see if you have this, if you're positive for this type of bacteria. And if you are, which is, it's common if you are, then if your water breaks, you should go to the hospital, because they don't want, basically, once your water breaks, the air from the outside world can go in and reach the baby. So since I was positive for that, we had to go to the hospital. I mean, not the second my water broke, but like within the next hour or so. Thank God I had my hospital bag packed, my last updated video, and I hopped into the shower, took a warm shower. I knew that was maybe my last shower for a while. In my shower, I even tried to shave my legs because I was like, you know, who knows? And I even cut myself while doing so, which I never cut myself while shaving. I think also I was like kind of just shaking from nerves. And I remember the whole time thinking, oh my God, like our life's about to completely change. We're gonna be like, we're leaving this apartment and we're coming back with the baby. Like, I was just kind of freaking out a little bit, just like, oh my God, what are we gonna do with a newborn baby? My mom was sleeping and I knocked on her door and I was like, hey, my water broke. We're headed to the hospital, because she was gonna stay behind with the pets and take care of the pets. So we get to the hospital about 12:50 a.m. As soon as I got into the hospital, I mean, there was like not a soul in the waiting area for, you know, at that time. So it was me and this other girl, and they wanted me to do a tracciato, which is a fetal heart rate monitoring to kind of see, okay, your water broke. They wanted to see contractions and monitor her heart rate as well, before the gynecologist came in to check me down there. I was there for like a good hour getting this tracciato, and about 1:35, I started to feel contractions a little more intensely, nothing crazy, but just I remember feeling them a little bit more, and I was like, oh, this is it, I'm going into labor. Like, I thought it was gonna happen really fast. Oh, was I wrong? I kept on losing a lot of liquid leaking through my sweatpants. So I wore these sweats to the hospital, and just like a big t-shirt, leaked through these sweatpants with also kind of like a light pinkish liquid. They gave me these big mega pads to put on, and I kept leaking through them. Like, once my water broke, it just kept on leaking through. The gynecologist checked me. I was not dilated. My cervix was soft. They were like, we need to monitor you for the next 12 hours, and if you aren't dilated at all within the next 12 hours, since you are positive for the streptococco, your water broke, we will need to start induction. So at around 2:30 in the morning, got a hospital bed. I did, because, you know, we went the public route. I shared with another girl who had just given birth. So picture this, at 2:30 in the morning, you walk into a hospital room, and as soon as I walked in, like, she had literally a 1-day-old baby who was screaming. She was changing his diaper. I feel bad for her. Like, you know, she wants this time with her baby, and she's trying to console him and change his diaper, and like in walks a girl about to give birth too. And I was always very hesitant about sharing a room, because in the States, you know, it's not really a thing. And so I was always expecting to have my own room, but I got over it. Expected to share a room. Some hospitals in Italy, you have like 4 to 6 girls sharing one room, 4 to 6 women sharing one room. Luckily at this hospital, there's only 2 women overall sharing the room. So sharing a room, there's a curtain that separates you both, but you can hear everything. Up until that point, they did let Emilio stay in the room with me that night. Granted, the rooms don't have a couch or because in the States, like, you know, you have a couch for the significant other. Like, no, there was none of that. There was a very uncomfortable plastic chair. Protocol at this hospital was that partners, like, you couldn't have any visitors at all. Visiting hours were from noon to 10 p.m. So technically Emilio really could only stay from noon to 10 p.m. They did let him stay in the room with me at that point, because my water had broke. If I was going into labor, he would be able to come with me into the labor and delivery room, or the sala parto, so they let him stay. But it was just very comfortable. I didn't sleep at all because of the adrenaline, and then the poor woman's baby crying next to us. And so, you know, I do think, I mean, I am grateful for the public healthcare system here, and being able to deliver and have my full amazing hospital experience completely free. Didn't spend a single penny. But I do think like it is weird having, you know, sharing a room with someone going into labor and someone who already has a newborn, because for example, when I started getting really bad contractions, like I wanted to like yell, but I felt bad because there was this woman with a newborn baby sleeping. And also like if I wanted to sleep, it was a little weird, but then once I had my baby and we both had newborns together, it was fine. Basically the bathroom was on her side, so anytime I had to go to the bathroom, I had to like go right in front of her, and then the changing table was on my side, so anytime she wanted to change her baby, she had to come over to my side. A lot of times we just changed our babies like on the bed.
Allora, questa è la nostra stanza che l'ho condiviso con un'altra ragazza che è stata dimessa oggi. Lei stava qui col suo neonato. E poi questa è la nostra parte che ho chiesto a Emilio a portarmi la coperta e il cuscino da casa perché questi lettini sono scomodi. C'è un po' di privacy con questa tendina, ma si sente tutto, e poi condividiamo anche il bagno, che la doccia non esce neanche l'acqua calda in questi giorni, quindi mi sono lavata i capelli nel lavandino ieri sera. Ecco il fasciatoio. Poi la vista di Careggi. So here's what they provide for you. I had Emilio bring me water wipes because they actually just recommend you cleaning their diaper with like wetting cotton with water, but it kind of like gets stuck up in her parts and gets left on her skin, so it's not the easiest thing to clean with, but I've been using that since today. And some like soft paper towels. I don't know what that is. And then we each have our own drawer. So the girl who just got discharged today, she's been here since we've been admitted. She was 1, I'm 2, so they provide you every day. They come and change all this, so they replenish diapers, little like towels that you can use, and also I guess I used them all up. Yeah, but they'll come this evening to replenish them, but they also provide these little pads that I've been putting down to change her. They also provide blankets, but these aren't really that soft or nice, honestly, which is why I had Emilio bring mine at home. And then they also, they give you this little locker, which I have everything in. And they, provide pads for the mom, but they're they're like just basically, here, I'll show you. They're like this, they're huge, but I've been layering 2 on top of the other, and they come in and replenish these every day.
At the end of the day, you're so fixated on what's going on in your own world that it's not really a big deal. I did not get dilated at all that entire night. Fast forward to 6:30 in the morning, we both had been dozing on and off for the last few hours. Didn't sleep at all. Emilio, poor thing, he was on a plastic chair. I tried to get him to share the bed with me, but it was so uncomfortable. It was like this minuscule twin bed. My contractions had been going about every 3 to 5 minutes and lasting about a minute each. They're pretty tolerable. I was just breathing through them, and Emilio would massage my back in between the contractions, and I also started to get diarrhea at that point. So I didn't know this until right before labor, but a big sign of you're going into labor is getting diarrhea, because your body is naturally cleaning and flushing itself out, prepping for labor. So I was like, ooh, diarrhea, great, I'm gonna go into labor, I'm going to deliver. That means that I'm probably dilating and I'm ready to go soon, right? Wrong. At 7:15 in the morning, they kicked Emilio out and said that he could come back. He could come back when visiting hours were back, which was noon, unless unless I had to go into delivery right away, and he would be able to come back in. And I'm not gonna lie, I was just like a little nervous because, you know, you're in a different country, and even though I do speak Italian, a lot of the medical terms don't come to me naturally, or I don't understand them. The nurse entered to do the fetal heart rate monitoring and said throughout the day they're going to monitor the fetal heart rate and my contractions via the tracciato again. 7:40 in the morning, they brought my breakfast, coffee with milk, yogurt, juice, cookies. So, you know, I was pretty hungry, but also nervous and had diarrhea, so I wasn't really wanting to eat that much. But I will tell you, for some reason, as simple as the coffee was, it was really, really good in that moment. An hour later, at 9, they sent me to get checked by the gynecologist. My cervix had opened just a bit. It was only 1 centimeter dilated. So they were like, oh yeah, you are starting to dilate, but not as much as you should when your water broke, you know, X hours ago. Said that they were gonna check again in 2 hours, and if nothing happens, and then that's when they were gonna start the induction process. I kind of already surrendered to the idea of being induced. And at 11, so 2 hours after the first gynecologist visit, they started me on the induction process. Basically, they started me with misoprostol. They did not start me on Pitocin. In the States, they do Pitocin usually as a common form of induction. They do offer that here, but they wanted me to do misoprostol, which is a pill, and you take this 1 pill every 2 hours until your contractions intensify and your cervix dilates more. And it's a total of 8 pills, so 16 hours total if you think about it, but you don't have to go up to 8 pills. If you're dilated enough after 2 pills, then you can stop the treatment. The reason that they did it for me, they chose this pill for me, is because I wasn't dilated really at all. Basically, it's an effective cervical ripening agent. It's a synthetic prostaglandin, sorry if I mispronounced that. Helps with the softening of the cervix and dilation, what they wanted for me. Since I was barely dilated, they decided to go this route. They delivered lunch at 11:45, and then Emilio came around noon, and he brought me a smoothie, which was really nice. And then at 1, they gave me the second induction pill. Then 2 hours later, they gave me the 3rd pill. So this was within the span of 6 hours total, since I had started the induction process. My contractions were getting more frequent and intense in terms of pain. I remember that. Said that my contraction frequencies were getting better and closer to labor, active labor contractions, but that I needed to be more dilated for the epidural. They said that I should wait for the next pill dose at 5 p.m. And I remember being like, I really want the epidural. Like, my contractions are getting pretty frequent and like painful. It just feels like the worst period cramp you've ever had in your entire life, times 10. And then it just gets worse and worse and worse. I read this book, Hypnobirthing. It was gifted to me. Although I didn't do hypnobirthing, I learned the breathing technique for getting through contractions, which was basically breathe in 4 breaths and then breathe out 8, count to 8. And I did that the whole time in between every contraction, and I have to say it helped so much. I had taken the 4th pill at 5 p.m. and then at 6:30 p.m. my contractions got immensely more intense and frequent, lasting 1 minute every 2, 3, 4 minutes. I got my cervix checked because of how the contractions were going, and I had only been 2 centimeters dilated. So it means from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I had only dilated 1 centimeter. And you don't know how discouraging that is, because my body, I felt like the contractions were getting pretty bad, that I was like, I am only 1 centimeter dilated. They told me that they couldn't give me the epidural until I was 5 centimeters dilated, because they didn't want to risk the fact that if they gave me the epidural, I would no longer have contractions from the induction. And then if I wouldn't have gotten more dilated after the epidural was given, then they may have had to do an emergency C-section on me. So that was good on their part, but internally I was in so much pain. I was like, just give me the epidural. But I understand now after the fact why they didn't give it to me to be safe. I was exhausted. At this point. They brought me an exercise ball to help with contractions, which was really nice. One of the nurses was so sweet. She kind of taught me the best way to kind of breathe through and use the ball for contractions, and it helped a lot. She was honestly the sweetest. Her name was Mariana. I remember her so fondly. I just remember she was an amazing nurse. It did help with the contractions. Emilio kept on massaging my back, which felt really good and really helped. I definitely recommend having your partner, someone who's with you, do that. We're gonna give you the next dose at 7 p.m. I didn't really want to take it with how frequent and painful my contractions were. All I wanted to do was yell and scream from the pain, but sharing the room with a new mom and her newborn, I felt like I really couldn't do that, even though I heard other women in other rooms doing that. But I just wanted to be respectful, and so I basically breathed through the whole thing and like really just, it's just a mind over matter situation. And no matter how bad the pain is physically, like I just breathed through it, and there was some moaning, but I kept it under control, which is crazy because of the pain. The contractions were really bad at this point. At 9 p.m. I was in so much pain at this point that I was like, please, epidural, please, epidural. So they were like, okay, let's go. We're gonna go do another cervix check. Went to get my cervix checked again, and I had to basically, like, the gynecologist didn't come to me. I had to go to the room, and at that point my contractions were pretty bad that even walking, like I walked a few steps and then had to stop and like breathe through my contractions and then walked. It was bad. At that point I was 4 centimeters dilated, but they said they wanted to wait a couple of hours more to see if I had dilated any more naturally via induction before giving me the epidural. You guys, I was like, oh, we made it to 4 centimeters and I have to wait a couple more hours. So they suggested to take a hot shower. So I did. I went and took a hot shower, sat on the like bench in the bathroom, and had Emilio basically just like hold the shower head on hot water over me. And honestly, it really helped with my contractions. It felt so good, the nice warm water, it really lessened the pain of the contractions, and I didn't want it to end. But after like, I don't know, 35 minutes in the shower, like we were like, okay, I should probably turn it off and, you know, see what's next. At 11 p.m. they finally took me down to the sala parto, which is the delivery room, in a wheelchair, because at that point my contractions were so close to one another that I really could barely walk. I remember being like, okay, they're gonna wheel me down, I'm gonna get my epidural, and everything's gonna be like bliss, and we're doing it. So this was about 24 hours after my water broke, more or less, and this is when I stopped taking notes. It's gonna be like kind of my memory. I remember Emilio went down separately because he had, I don't know, he had like basically was taking my bag down. I was in the wheelchair with a nurse. I arrived into the sala parto, which is this big sterile, looks like an operating room basically, but then there's just like a bed there. Then they veered me off into another room to get the epidural with the anesthesiologist. You guys, my contractions were so bad at this point that I couldn't sit still. Like I was like, the only thing that helped me would be rocking back and forth in the strangest positions. And they were like, you have to be so still, you cannot move, and you have to keep this one particular position when they insert you with the catheter and the needle of the epidural. And I was like, you guys, my contractions are so bad that I don't think I can sit still for this epidural. And they were like, let us know when your contractions come, and we'll kind of like, you know, stop. And I was like, they were coming like, you guys, less than every minute. Hold on. Okay. YouTube family. Meet Kaya. This is our baby girl, Kaya Rose. She just had a feeding. I had to step away for a second. Milk drink right now, so sweet. Okay, I'm back. She got a little fussy because we're now in a growth spurt and we are fighting daytime naps. I don't even remember where we stopped. Oh yes, and I basically had one of the nurses was in front of me, and like I had to like grab onto her so I could like have some type of thing to like hold on to while I was having contractions, to like breathe through and like hold on to something. Emilio at this point was not allowed in when I was getting my epidural for sanitary reasons. So I just remember it felt like it took forever. I didn't even feel anything because my contraction pain was so bad that I wasn't even focusing on what they were doing to my back. I did feel like a little bit of like this like string feeling, which is, if you look up epidurals, I didn't realize that that's kind of, it's like this like long catheter. It's not just a needle. I don't know. It's kind of grosses me out, but yes, my intention was to get an epidural. I was getting it. They'd inserted it into me. They hadn't put the actual like drip or meds in it yet. So they had inserted the catheter, taped everything up, and then had me walk back to the labor and delivery room. I get back to the labor and delivery room. They have me sit on the bed. All of a sudden, I have like this insane urge to go to the bathroom. I kept saying I really have to go to the bathroom, and listen, you guys, when you're in that much pain, you lose all inhibitions and you don't really care anymore about getting embarrassed or who's around you. You literally lose all inhibitions and you just like say it like it is. And we're like, no, that's her head pushing up against your, nether regions. Her head was like, she had dropped and her head was like ready to party. That's not, you don't have to go to the bathroom. It's just her head. Okay, let's breathe through it. Then the anesthesiologist came back in and he was basically like administering the liquid, whatever it is, the epidural. And I did feel like this cool gush in my back when he was like, okay, I'm putting it in. And like, I felt like this cooling sensation over my entire body. So I felt like the actual liquid coming in, being inserted into my body. And he said, okay, it's gonna take about 20 to 30 minutes for it to take effect. So I'm like, okay, I think I can deal with, another 20, 30 minutes of these painful contractions. I kid you not, you guys, within minutes, I was like screaming, devo fare la cacca, devo andare, sto facendo la cacca. Like I literally, the feeling that you have when it's go time, it's showtime, is you have to go to the bathroom. And this is gonna be TMI again, but if you are actually interested, like I wish someone had told me this detailed, because a lot of my friends, they all had epidurals and they didn't feel it up until this point. The best way I can describe the feeling at this point is, when you have diarrhea, but there's no bathroom in sight, and the feeling of you, like you're about to have, this is like really TMI, but whatever, we crossed this line before. You're about to have explosive diarrhea. It's disgusting, but this is what it is. But there's no bathroom in sight, and you feel like, oh my God, I can't hold it in anymore. Like it's gonna go everywhere. But then when you release, nothing, it's like constipation, like it just feels like a cement block, trying to push a cement block out. It's like the weirdest, that's the best way I can describe the feeling. Anyways, I kept like yelling, and I felt, now that I look back, I'm like, oh, those poor nurses. I was like yelling, like, I have to go to the bathroom, let me go to the bathroom. I'm going to shit all over myself. In Italian, I was like yelling this. And the anesthesiologist was like right here. Amelia was by my side this entire time, holding my hand, helping me breathe through it, telling me, like giving me affirmations, telling me I'm doing amazing. And like, even though I appreciated that in that moment, I was like, I wasn't listening to anything that was going on. I was just like in like like you kind of get into like this animalistic instinctual mode, and it's weird. But if you know what I mean, if you've been through it, you know what I mean. So at this point, the epidural hadn't even been in my system for like not even 5 minutes before I was like desperately telling them like, no, like I either I'm gonna go to the bathroom or I need to push, because they were like, no, don't push yet, it's just her head, calm, it's okay, breathe through the contractions. And I'm like, I need to push. Like I have the sensation that if I don't push, so I don't know, something's gonna happen. Then the gynecologist finally came in and looked, and they all kind of, the last thing I remember, because then I closed my eyes and didn't really open my eyes until she was born, is them all like looking and then looking at each other and going, oh yeah, okay, all right, go ahead and push. Like, I went from, you know, my body not dilating to finally being dilated to then it's go time, like her head, like she was crowning already. That was the feeling I was getting. And between the time she was crowning to the time that she was born was 6 minutes. Like, they told me it was 6 minutes from, it took 6 minutes of me pushing until she was born. And let me tell you guys, the epidural did not get take into effect until after she was born. The thing that I gave birth naturally because I felt everything, even though they had administered the epidural into my body, it didn't take effect until after she was born. Which is insane. At that point, it's like, what was the point of even having the epidural, to be honest? It was the most intense, uncomfortable, exhausting, it was actual labor, like physical labor. Not literally, I mean, it was a literal labor, giving birth, but like actual labor, work. I was drenched in sweat. My lips apparently were so chapped from the way I was breathing that Emilio had to pour water on my lips like every few minutes. I just remember every time I had to push, which was the contractions go from feeling like cramps to then knowing when you have to push. That's like the best way I can describe active labor, like right before you're about to deliver. And when I was pushing, it felt, like I said, a cement block. Like, it felt almost impossible to get whatever was in me out. And to be able to push the way I needed to push, the only way I could do it was physically yell in a very, groan and yelling in a very animalistic way. And like I said, all the inhibitions were lost. And the way I was screaming and yelling in between pushing was there were all sorts of noises coming from me that evening. They were brilliant in coaching me, really to help me prevent from tearing. So they basically would say, okay, push, okay, wait, retract it, refrain from pushing, breathe through it, hold it in. And that's when your, pelvic floor muscles really come in handy. Coaching me when to push and when to hold it in, because the instinct is to just push it all out. But if that had happened and she had come out really fast, I would have completely torn. And then she came out and it was the biggest physical relief. Felt like a marathon. She came out, she had this little tiny cry, and barely, she had this little tiny I'm here cry, and then they put her directly on me. Emilio cut the umbilical cord. And then that was that. At the hospital here, they let you do, skin to skin. Look, they want you to do skin to skin for 2 hours in the labor and delivery room before you have to go back up to your hospital room. But yeah, they also gave me an antibiotic right before I started pushing. They put an IV in here and gave me an antibiotic for the positive streptococcal that I had. That way I couldn't, I wouldn't pass anything to her as she passed through the birth canal. And then after I'd given birth, they had then put just a liquid IV in to help rehydrate me. And then after she was born, oh yeah, I did deliver the placenta. They had me push, I don't remember how long after, but I remember them being okay, it's time for your placenta to come out. Give a push. And I remember being so exhausted and kind of joking, being oh my God, I thought this nightmare was over, joking. But I didn't really feel anything. It was pretty much nothing. Compared to birthing the baby, the placenta was really nothing. I didn't see anything. I didn't see it. I didn't even see Emilio cut the umbilical cord. I was so tired at that point. But I didn't tear. I didn't need stitches. I did have a few cuts that, healed pretty quickly. Nothing too uncomfortable. After 2 hours, they wheeled me back up to the hospital room. Emilio took Kaya in the little hospital bassinet thing, and we went up to the hospital room. He was allowed to stay the night because she was born at after 1 a.m. and he was allowed to stay the night with us until 7 a.m. until they kicked him back out again. And we didn't sleep at all. The adrenaline for me, especially from giving birth and just wanting to stare at her all night. And yeah, so we were going on 2 days of not sleeping at that point. Emilio left because he wasn't allowed there anymore. Honestly, the day after, like that day, it's all one big blur. I just remember being so physically and mentally drained and exhausted and just having this new creature that I was already obsessed with, and learning how to change a newborn diaper and how to latch and you know, how to deal with colostrum. Like, they honestly, I have to say, the staff at the hospital. So I actually gave birth, I delivered at Careggi here in Florence. Florence is such a small city that you don't have many options, and we did check out all the hospitals and to see what would be the best fit for us, especially location wise. At the end of the day, we ended up deciding the hospital that was closest to us. And also, I was seeing a private gynecologist leading up to my birth at Careggi. I didn't end up delivering with him because, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if we had wanted to go private with him, it would have been, and I'll tell you right now, it would have cost us around 15,000 euro, which when you compare it to the US isn't that much, even though the US, your insurance covers it, so you aren't paying all that out of pocket. But here I am on a private insurance, but our private insurance would only cover up to 4,000 euro of the private delivery. And at the end of the day, like, the only difference that it would have made was having my gynecologist there in the labor and delivery room with me, and that's what you're paying for. And at the end of the day, he has an amazing staff, an amazing team. And I said, listen, if that's the only thing, like, why am I gonna spend 11,000 euro just to have you there? I felt pretty confident in the staff, and the facilities would have been the same. They had even said, even if you pay for private, there's not a guarantee that you will have your own room, your own hospital room. If they couldn't even guarantee that, I'm like, that's insane. Like, for us to spend that much money, for us, it wasn't worth it at all, especially since the care and the quality really is the same, at least at that hospital, whether you're going public or private. At the end of the day, we ended up going the public route, and that's a big reason why we chose that hospital, is because our gynecologist really helped us with the process and just helped make me feel comfortable leading up to labor and delivery. And he came and visited us after I had delivered anyways. I cannot say one bad thing, especially postpartum. They had nurses coming in all the time to check in, teach me how to latch. If she wasn't latching, how to do it better. They would really take the time to help me and come in and check on me and the baby at the same time, and just really be a good support system. They're even at Careggi, at this hospital, there's also a like a lactation consultancy center that you can go to if you're still having trouble. So I slept there for 4 nights, and then if you have a vaginal delivery and there's no complications with you or baby, they discharge you 48 hours after your baby's born. So we were discharged Friday. She was born Wednesday at 1 a.m. We were discharged Friday after lunch. The beginning, once I found out that Emilio couldn't stay with me 24 hours and that I had to share a room with someone, and all of the things that I was hesitant and nervous about, at the end of the day, really, and the grand scheme of things, wasn't a big deal. If anything, like, it gave Emilio time to go home, sleep in our bed, take a shower, rest, because I really needed him physically during that time. And so I wanted him to be refreshed and rested. I didn't want him to, like, be sleep deprived like I had been. And it was kind of scary to think of being by myself with our newborn, like completely by myself throughout the night. But it ended up working out, and it was a great time for us to bond, and I honestly really ended up loving having those hours, just us two. I want to hear from you all. If you've given birth in a different country that's not your own, what was your experience like? Or even if you gave birth in your hometown, that's great. Like, I want to just know, how was your birthing experience? If you are currently expecting, what are you looking forward to the most? What are you nervous about? Let's kind of open up a dialogue here, because I would have loved to have kind of like that guidance from someone else when I was pregnant and going through this. So I'm happy to be that for any of you. If I can be even that for one person, I'm happy, because honestly, it's a scary, intimidating, hard experience, but it's so worth it. And I'm happy to kind of help answer any additional questions you may have. or just chat with you about your experience. Thank you all so much for being here, and if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to my channel. That way you don't miss out any of my future videos, whatever that may look like. And I appreciate you so much. Thanks for your support, and I can't wait to share more. So until next time, bye.